Hi, welcome to the podcast Ease into Clarity. I'm Dr. Divi, family doctor turned intuitive coach, and I'm here to help you. In this podcast, we will learn mental techniques, emotional techniques, and spiritual techniques to change daily problems. So maybe it's your husband, your boss, your coworker, your kids, they're driving you crazy. You can email me any of your questions and I will use all the techniques I've learned over the years and help you. Grab your hot chocolate and make sure to subscribe. We'll see you soon. Ciao. Hello, and welcome to the podcast Ease to Clarity. And I'm your host, Dr. Divi, and thank you for joining me. Today and for the next few podcasts, we're going to be talking about the body. I've been getting a lot of referrals for my introductory offers and a lot of people at my retreats lately and my one-day workshops that all want to work on body health issues. I scanned my podcast and I realized, you know what, I haven't really talked much about the body, but it is a massive interest of me given that I was a family doctor first in my first career. And I'll try to make my story into why I moved from family medicine to this work short because it's a long story. But I graduated family medicine over 30 years ago. And I moved into intuitive coaching about 20 years ago because when I worked as a family doctor, I always thought there was more as to why people got sick. Having gone through my own health struggles, I personally had found that when I worked on my emotional and mental well-being, as well as some physical work for sure, but what I had always found is that the physical work itself by itself never worked. And the emotional, mental work combined with the physical made a night and day difference. So in today's podcast, I'm going to be talking a lot about the body, illness, and sickness, and how we can heal. So almost everybody has heard the concept of self-healing. It's not an uncommon word. There was a teacher called Louise Hay back in the 70s and 80s who wrote a book called Heal Your Life. And she was one of the first teachers in the self-development world to help us give us the idea that we can heal ourselves. Now, if you look back at history, pre the invention of the stethoscope, pre-allopathic medicine, pre-penicillin, prior to the 1940s, that's all people really relied on. The majority of healthcare in the 1700s and 1800s was more mystical, metaphysical, energetic, because we didn't have an allopathic thing to lean on to. Penicillin back in the 40s was really the advent into the allopathic era we're in right now. And to be honest, it's not even that long, it's less than 100 years. And now, since penicillin, which has done amazing things, allopathic medicine is incredible. You will never hear me knock it. But the downside of so much focus on allopathic is we've forgotten everything we did for medicine prior to the 1940s. Prior to the 1940s, people somehow lived, and sure, the life expectancy was less. But there were other modalities to healing, and that's what we're going to be talking about a bit more today. In subsequent episodes, I'll be talking more about specific illnesses and the energetic approach to it. But today I'm going to give more of an overarching understanding as to why healing is hard in our society, why we lean so much into allopathic and alternatives often don't work anymore. And we're going to talk a lot about that as we get going here. So one of the biggest problems that we have in today's society is that from a very young age, we are taught to be afraid of our bodies. Just think about it as children. What was your mother or father's reaction to the first time you got the flu or an ear infection or when you had stomach pain? How did your mother or father react? Those reactions often get internalized, and before we know it, we don't even realize that we are actually afraid of our body. In my own childhood, my mother never really paid much attention to our physical ailments. She grew up in a village in India, and so didn't have access to a lot of allopathic medicine. So when we grew up, we very rarely got shoveled off to a family doctor. So it's very ironic that I became a doctor. But more times than not, if I had a headache or a stomach pain or I had an infection, my mom would go to the cupboard and she would pull some sort of spice or herb out of the cupboard because she's, grew up in a village in India. And that's what they did. And so I think I can count on one hand, if that, how many times I went to the doctor when I was a kid. Now, that doesn't count emergency room visits. I was very injury prone, so I'd always be spraining ankles and breaking stuff and dislocating knees and doing all kinds of stuff. But besides those things, those niggly things, I never went to see a doctor for. But what about you? When your stomach hurt, what did your mom or dad do? When you had a headache, what did your mom or dad do? Were your mom and dad more concerned in terms of their own health? What did you see them or your grandparents do? If we dealt with a parent that was sick all the time, we might internalize constant fear of what our body's going to do. If we had watched a grandfather or a mother or father die instantly, we might respond differently as well too. So our internal preconceptions on health were often based on our childhood experiences. And so those fears we have around our health can just come from that experience. But on top of that, we have a good old thing called a television. And on the television nowadays, especially from our beautiful American neighbors, we have so many commercials every other minute telling us, you need this drug, you need that drug. And they make it look very pretty. Take this drug, you'll be able to fly to the moon. Take this medication, you will never suffer pain, you'll climb Everest. Like those commercials teach us that when something's happening to your body, you've got to take this medication and we'll make it all better. So these are just two examples, and I'll give you a third in a second. I'm trying to show you what could be going on in your subconscious and unconscious about what you're taught about the body and illness. The third is common talk. So, for example, if you sit around Tim Hortons or go to the gyms and listen to people's conversations, you'll often hear conversations like this. Oh, there's a lot of the flu going around right now. Oh, we need to be careful because Joey's dad was sick with norovirus. So we've got to be really careful. Oh, everyone I know is getting ill right now. You hear these conversations all the time. And so I could go on and on and on as to why our subconscious thinks we get sick all the time. But these are just three really easy things to look at. What did your parents teach you? What did you watch from watching them or your grandparents? The second being TV, commercials, infomercials where we taught about the body. And the third being common conversations. So where I'm going with this is these are all planted deep into your subconscious or unconscious that we are taught to be afraid of our body. We are taught that we're victims of our body's symptoms. We are taught that when something happens bad, we rush to the doctor, rush to the naturopath to figure out what's wrong. The more we think about that over and over, the more sickness we're going to create. In my world of the metaphysical world, everything boils down to thought. And in some ways, we kind of know that because come December or January, your social media feed may be filled with law of attraction videos. Do you want to create $1 million this year? How do you do that? Create a poster board, do affirmations. We've all heard this, especially in the last 2 decades. It's gotten very, very loud. So we know that thought can create. I'm going to think about that job I want to think about the job I want to think about that job I want. We get that job. Think about that boyfriend. Think about that boyfriend. Think about the boyfriend. Well, the same is in the reverse. If we constantly think we're going to get sick, we're going to get sick. If we constantly think our body's out to get us, our body's out to get us. If we constantly think something bad is happening in my body, something bad is happening in my body. Our thoughts are so powerful. So the next thing I want you to play with is this next concept. So as you all know, I'm an allopathic physician, graded quite young. When I graded back in the 90s, back then, if you were sick, you always saw your family doctor. This was pre-internet, pre-going onto Wi-Fi to figure out why you've got a yeast infection, pre-going onto internet to Google your symptoms. You just went and saw your family doctor. It's just what people did back then. Then around the 2000 mark, this is what I saw, naturopaths, which are amazing, became more commonplace. Acupuncture became more commonplace. So more alternatives came onto the scene. And I'm going to list a few, but the list is very, very long. And it's awesome that alternatives came on the scene because a lot of us are sick of the allopathic. So we went to alternative. We went to naturopaths. We go to chiropractors. We go to biohackers, bioenergetics, physiotherapists, energy healers, nutritionists. The list goes on and on and on. And that's amazing. but they're all outside of you. Even what you eat is outside of you. Somebody cracking your body is outside of you. Somebody putting you on supplements is outside of you. All of that's outside of you. The hardest thing to hear is that the power is in your own hands. The power is in your mind. The power is in your emotions. The power is in thought. But because we have so much deep subconscious stuff, and we're always looking for that magic bullet to make us better, like the commercials always tell us, we're always searching and searching. This is going to make it better. That's going to make it better. This is going to make it better. That's going to make it better. It's almost, we have to almost cover all of those things before we get exhausted, before you go to somebody like me who's going to talk to you about thoughts and emotions. Let's change gears for a second. We've all heard of the concept of cause and effect. Cause is, I'll go and I'll get a job at Starbucks. Effect is I get money. Cause is I go on a dating app. Effect, I'll have a date. Cause is thoughts that don't serve us, a powerless victim in anger. Effect is your body. The body in itself cannot create on its own. And that's not what allopathic and other forms of medicine will teach you. The other forms of medicine will teach you your body's eating you up. The body in itself cannot create. The body is an effect to cause. And if you look back at metaphysical medicine, which is what we relied on for a gazillion years, that is the truth. And unless you're ready to go there, you're always going to be looking outside yourself for some sort of bandage or something to fix you. But just think about it. How empowering would that be for you to believe, yes, I'll go see my naturopath. Yes, I might go see my chiropractor. Yes, I might go to my family doctor for antibiotics. But I'm also going to look at what is in my thoughts. What is in my emotions? And that way I don't need to live at my chiropractor's office. That way I don't need to live on these antibiotics all the time. That way I don't need to live using something outside of me to heal me. How empowering is it for you to think your thoughts and emotions can do something? Well, they can. Because every thought you have, and we have 40 to 60,000 of them a day, every thought you have creates an emotion. And the emotion goes into our body and creates a cascade of response of hormonal effects. Most of us have heard of cortisol, the fight, flight, freeze emotion. Yes, we have that emotion. But we can turn off the cortisol response. We don't have to respond with fight, flight, freeze all the time. We can send rest and digest and love into our body. But we have to be willing to look at our thoughts. So tell me how that feels. Wild, eh? It's not impossible, but we have to be willing to say, you know what? Yes, I'm going to do this vitamin. Yes, I'm going to do the supplement. Yes, I'm going to do the diet, but I'm also going to look at my emotions. This is what I do. I run a class called the Healing Lab where this is the focus. So I'm going to give you some homework if you want to take this further. Step 1, meditate regularly. Pretty soon we're going to be on School. School is an online platform. We'll have tons of free meditations you can access. There's tons on my website. Number 2, start journaling. Number 3, look at your belief systems around health, around your body. Start journaling from there. Number 4, what is your dominant emotion? What do you feel all the time? Anger, frustration, fear. What do you feel all the time? Number 5, how do you feel about your health? How do you feel about the health issues that's going on? Number 6, what is your resistance to love? Those 6 steps can take you 6 months, a year, or 6 days to go through, depending on your willingness to go through them. But that's like cookie crumbs to take you into the Healing Lab, which is this online class I offer that I've watched people heal all kinds of crazy crap from multiple sclerosis to cancer. I've watched people heal it in this class. This is not a commercial for that class. This is a podcast to teach you You're in the driver's seat of your life. What you do in that driver's seat is up to you. But I hope that this inspires you and takes you further into the concept of self-healing. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sending so much love and holding that space that you can heal. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me in this podcast, Ease into Clarity. It is such a joy, pleasure, and honor to be in your living room. What I would love is if you follow me on Instagram, DRDIVI, or go to my website, drdIvi.com, or write a review. That would be even more amazing. Thank you. If you really enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share it with friends, family, tell them to follow me, because I think the more of us that listen to the fact that each of us can start to shift, each of us can shift mental things, emotional things, spiritual shift, to shift our daily reality. When more and more of us do it, we get a better planet. We get more love. We get more happiness. We get more joy. So I'd love it if you followed. I'd love it if you shared this, because it would be such a joy and an honor. And again, if you have a question, guess what? I'm here for you. So send me an email, easeintoclarity@gmail.com. And as they come in, I will answer them in podcasts that are subsequent, whether it be your boss, your relationship, your husband, whatever. That's what I'm here for. Because the more of us that learn really simple mental techniques, really simple spiritual techniques, we change the physical reality we live in. Pretty soon we have more peace, more ease, more joy trickling across the whole world. Remember, there's a spiritual solution for every problem. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.